Hi, welcome back to Lady Lovestead Reads. My name is Jessica, and in this video I'll be sharing my October reading plans. If you're new here, welcome. I typically read books that fall into one of two categories. On one side, I really like books that are dark, twisted, depraved. On the other side, I really like books that are cozy, whimsical, lighthearted, heartwarming. Kind of like the two sides of my personality. If Wednesday Addams and Enid were one person and lived within one body, that would be me. I'm like a gothic Disney princess, I guess. That being said, a lot of the books that I read are pretty dark and twisted, so please check your trigger warnings before you pick any of them up. I first wanted to share my carryovers from September. I am still reading 3 books that I actually started in September. The first is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. This is an adult high fantasy. I won't get into the details of what it's about because I don't really know what it's about. It just came highly rated by a lot of the friends that I have here in the community. So I picked it up. It's on Kindle Unlimited. The next book that I'm carrying over into the month of October was actually my September buddy read book here at the Lovestead, and it is Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. I took the dust jacket off, but yes, this is Happiness Falls. I am almost halfway through this one. This is about a family whose father goes missing and basically them trying to figure out what happened. And then the third book that I'm currently reading and carrying over into, I'm so sorry, I scared my kitty. Third book that I'm carrying over into October is Rope Me In by Kayla Grosse. This is also on Kindle Unlimited and I'm about 30% of the way through. This is a cowboy romance. Those are all being carried into October and very likely that I will finish all of them in the month. I kind of ditch regular TBR videos in exchange for more of a pile of possibilities because I don't really like being constricted or contained to a TBR because I'm more of a mood reader. So what I have to share now is more of a pile of possibilities. I have 3 books that I pulled from my bookshelf that I'm going to read, one of which includes the Lovestead Buddy Read for the month. And then I have a stack of books that I checked out from the library that I may or may not get to. Let's take a look at the books from my shelves first. One of the things I've started doing is looking to see if some of the books on my shelves are available via audiobook, and that's really helping me get through my physically owned TBR. And one of my goals this year is to increase the percentage of my read to unread ratio by about 10%. I started the year at 40% and my goal is by the end of the year to have 50% of my own TBR read. I really don't think I'm going to meet that goal. As of now, I'm on about 41% read, so I'm just trying to move the needle as much as I can before the end of the year. It's honestly been a challenge because I keep buying books. So, even though I'm reading from my shelves, I make up for it by buying more, and you know, the numbers kind of like cancel each other out. Anyway, the books from audiobook that I'm hoping to get to, they're actually a couple books in a series that I own, and the first one is A Dark and Twisting Path by Julia Buckley. This is book 3. Yeah, 3. Yes, book 3 in the Writer's Apprentice Cozy Mystery series, and it's about Lena who goes to live with her, basically her hero, which is this writer named Camila, and Lena is working alongside Camila, helping her write her books, and in between all of that, there's a murder that happens usually in every book and some sort of mystery that follows. There's also an overarching mystery that has to do with Lena's love interest that starts in book 1 and I'm pretty sure will go all the way through the last book in the series. So that's what this one is about, and that's the most detail I can give you without it being spoilery since this is book 3. Also, I'm running laundry, so I apologize if you hear the washing machine in the background. Personally, I think it's a really cozy sound, but I'm sorry if it bothers you. Next, Out of Range by C.J. Box. This is book 5 in the Joe Pickett series. Joe Pickett is kind of a Western flavored mystery police procedural sort of story, and the main character is Joe Pickett, and he's a game warden out in, I want to say, Wyoming. I always get it mixed up between Wyoming and Montana. Yes, Wyoming, Saddle String, Wyoming. So he's a game warden out there, and this series is so interesting in the way that CJ Box does the mysteries. The mysteries a lot of times will center around illegal poaching or, you know, dumping of chemicals in a certain part of the landscape, or corrupt government officials, right? It's like he really tackles some mysteries in really interesting ways that are not just your run-of-the-mill like murder mystery police procedural style book. And there's a lot of discussions in this series about environmentalism and conservation, endangered species, so on and so forth. And so far I really love this series, and as dark as the storylines tend to be, there is just like a coziness about this. There's just like a peacefulness about this, because along the way, as he's figuring out, you know, the whodunits, you get to just live in Wyoming with this game warden, and he's just riding his horse across this beautiful wilderness. And it's a small town, and yeah, so like there's a lot of darkness in these stories, but a lot of coziness as well. And for me, it's just like a perfect balance. These books are so satisfying. So yeah, this is book 5 in the series, and I think that's the most I can tell you as well, because it is a series. So if you get into too many detail, I'll probably spoil earlier books in the series. The book that I pulled from my shelf to be the Lovestead buddy read book for the month is the London Seance Society. So I'm kind of rotating every other month between dark and twisted and then more whimsical and cozy. Last month with Happiness Falls, that's more the dark and twisted side of things. The London Seance Society is more of the cozy whimsical side of things, because this is an adult kind of cozy historical fantasy. It's set in the late 1800s in Paris. If you know me, that's a good buzzword for me. Anything set in France is a good buzzword for me. I speak French. I've lived in France. So love that it's set in Paris. There's a main character who's trying to figure out her sister's death and ends up getting entangled in this seance society. And it just sounds like mysterious and kind of a cozy gothic fantasy spooky time for an October buddy read. So if you would like to read this with me, I promise this month I will get to it sooner, before the very last week of the month like I did last month. But if you want to read this with me, please feel free to join. There's a link to my Discord in the comments box down below, where you can join the little Lovestead. We've got such a cute little group of people talking about books in there every day. Yeah, so link to the Discord is in the comments or in the description box, whatever you want to call it. Finally, let's take a look at the books I checked out from the library. Now, this book is one, if you watched my mid-year freakout video, it's one that is highly anticipated, that I have been really looking forward to getting to this year, and it is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I am so excited for this book. I've loved everything that Sally Rooney writes. I love an Irish writer, and she's really good at doing toxic characters, not in a way that makes you dislike them, but in a way where it's like, yeah, I understand where they're coming from, and honestly, I kind of feel a bit of empathy for them, because her toxic characters are just really people, and people are imperfect and broken. This book seems to deal with the topic of grief, another buzzword for me. I've dealt with a lot of grief in my life, so when a book can tackle the topic of grief, well, I find it to be a very cathartic reading experience. But there's 2 characters in here that are dealing with grief from losing their father. One of them is a lawyer in Dublin, and the other is a chess player. So that's intriguing. And that's all that I really need to know about a Sally Rooney book. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, classic horror novel. I feel like most people on BookTube know what this one is. Honestly, I feel like these two are a pretty good mashup, because this one deals with like seances at this really old house called Hill House. So like there's a group that inherit the estate. Eleanor, a friendless, fragile young woman with a dark past, and they begin to cope with chilling, even horrifying occurrences beyond their control or understanding. They can't possibly know what lies ahead, for Hill House is gathering its powers, and soon it will choose one of them to make its own. Whoa. So haunted house story. I think it has something to do with seances, so Together We Rot. I haven't heard anything about this. I saw this on the shelf. It caught my attention because I think the cover is absolutely beautiful, so I picked it up. And this looks like, I mean, it's a YA, but I can't tell if it's a YA contemporary or a YA fantasy. So the little tagline on here says, "Secrets are stronger than blood. The morgue wood is full of both." And one of the characters is trying to figure out the mystery behind her missing mother. Another character is just struggling with, you know, average teenage angst. And I'm not really sure what's going to end up happening or, you know, what it's about, but would you look at that cover? Ava Reed on the back reviews it and says, "Horror for the romantically inclined and romance for the horror curious." The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. I have read The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher and really loved it, and I've been wanting to get back to another T. Kingfisher since then, and I figured October was a good month to pick up another horror. And it's called, one of the taglines for this one is Righteous Folklore Horror, which sounds really cool. Mouse is the main character in this one, and Mouse's grandmother has passed. Her grandmother was a hoarder, and now she has to clean out her grandmother's house, and she's thinking, how bad could it be? And she gets there and oh, it's pretty bad. So this sounds like another haunted house story. Maybe. This one I checked out before. I think I checked this out in August. It's called In the Hour of the Crows. This is someone who is a death talker in Appalachia. She can literally talk the death out of people. That's all I need to know. Plus crows. Love crows. And then last, we've got The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is another adult horror. Oh, also, okay, this and this. These are all adult horror novels. So The Final Girl Support Group, another adult horror novel about final girls. And so there's a support group for final girls who are women who have survived serial killers. And as they meet slowly one by one, the final girls are getting unalived. I've read Final Girl by Riley Sager. I love that one. I really like final girl stories, and there was like a period of time where Riley Sager, Grady Hendrix, and Stephen Graham Jones all published a final girls story. So I'd like to read all three of them. And so I picked this up. Now, these books from the library, it's not very likely I'm going to be able to actually read all of them. The one that I will prioritize, though, which will probably not be any surprise to you, is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. So that's a priority, and then this is a priority. These are my two priorities from this video to get to in the month of October. What are you reading in October? Have you read any of the books that I have mentioned here? If you just want to go ahead and leave me an emoji to let me know you were here, go ahead and leave me a ghost emoji, since so many of these stories deal with haunted houses. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye!